Record.
Welcome everyone. My name is Linda Jackson and I'm the founding editor of Seahorse publication. And it is my great pleasure today to be sitting here with a wonderful Dundee poet, and her name is Karen Macfarlane. This month we brought out this book, which is just wonderful, and it kind of follows in some way quite nicely from our other one, which is all about the surface. If you had a chance to read that, this one's Native River and Other Returnings. Beautiful cover as well by our friend. So, hi Karen, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Lovely to be here.
So lovely, and it was such a really nice night we had in Avant-Garde the other night. And this just is for any of you that maybe didn't manage, give you a chance to hear this last read her fabulous work. So just a little bit about Karen. She grew up in Dundee and has now probably resettled by the Tay after several years in the Highlands. She is an occupational therapist, and her previous jobs included working a Times production line, freelance writing for magazine, a gardener's labourer, and a mental health support worker. So she's a girl that gives out, and that's for sure. If you know her at all, you'll know that's the case. And clearly, in her life's work, she has also done that. She describes a midlife crisis of resulting in her completing a BA in creative writing and art history, which sounds wonderful.
Oh, it was.
And as I said, her first collection, I had the honour of publishing it in 2024, and I'm delighted to be behind getting this one out this time round. Welcome, Karen. I'm really looking forward to hearing you read your poems.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. I'm going to start by just reading the very short foreword that I've put in the book to put the collection in context, really. What ties you to a place? Memories, family, landscape, language? What happens when those ties are cut or the strings are tugged? Native River is an exploration of those questions. Being poetry, answers are not included.
Well said.
So I'll begin with a poem called Shells Collected and Lost. And this is sort of following on from the forward theme, thinking about what ties you to a place and by extension, what makes a place home. And I'm fascinated by these wee creatures that have shells and make their own home and take it with them. And so of course they can't lose it ever, unlike us. Shells collected and lost. The first was made for me, shared when I was too small, too soft to make my own, never questioned. A friend showed me the next, its curlicues, nooks and hollows, an indiscriminate refuge. The first I made for myself was plain and basic, homespun of simple necessity, but mine. A rare piggyback shell came next, with curved outgrowths, russety red as sphagnum tips or dulse. The next, the leaky one, let the wet in and out, was so salt-crusted in the end, it cracked. But then I learned the ways of shell making, of exuding minerals. I made a conch, flawless, new, planned to last, fit perfectly round me, mottled with my colours, soon lost. It seems I can't collect shells, can't hold one safely, but to know one truly is all I want. Cute. Will I go straight on with Silver River, Linda? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Silver River. I look down on the Tay, 3 miles distant. Liquid light, its cargo the glister of all that I was, meandering my past selves along the last of its course. I want to wear it, scoop it out of its strath, wrap it round me, drape its cold weight on my limbs, feel the grit of it scrape me, its silt soothe my skin. I want to belt my waist and hips with its bridges, be flicked by seal's tail and salmon's fin. Let my shoulders breach golden as sandbanks in the sun. I want to swallow its brackish tide and spew it back twice a day. Plait my hair with reeds, stretch my gleaming arms to the docks at Perth and Dundee, and push them away.
Wow. I mean, what I was saying the other day to someone when I was discussing this book with them was just the chameleon Karen that's in here. You know, there's I mean, I think when you said that, you know, losing your home or your life being turned upside down, there's a lot of that has been clearly worked through in this, I think, you know, in the Shell poem, looking for a home that sticks or fits, and then this one looking for a self that fits, or you know, it's quite transformative, the self in this, through its attachment to the river and actually becoming one with the river. It's absolutely incredible. I wonder if you could say a little bit about not necessarily the poetics of, but what you meant by its cargo, the glister of all I was.
Um, Really, that's just kind of my relationship to that particular river. And while a lot of people will have the kind of longing that this poem expresses just for connection with the natural world and with nature. When I moved back to Dundee from the Highlands, where I'd been living out in the right on the coast in this glorious, you know, back of beyond, really. Sorry, Ullapool, in a good way, back of beyond in a really, really good way. Coming back to the city and where I'd grown up, and I hadn't lived there for donkey's years. The Tay was the thing that I could kind of latch onto and relate to. It was part of the
Yeah.
wilderness that came into the city. And at the same time, it carried memories of going. My dad was a great fisherman, so he'd take me out fishing on the Tay when I was wee. And I've got a lovely memory of sitting when I was a bit older. I never really took on the fishing thing, but I liked to just go with him. And I remember swatting for my O-level English, reading Jane Eyre yet again with my feet in the river at the Tay up at Dalguise. So the Tay's got a lot of memories for me. So it's got a lot of kind of my past selves as well
What a
as
lovely memory that is. And you
oh,
feel when
it
you're saying that all the past selves, it's not necessarily these transformative selves are not like shedding skins of negatives. Some of it is just memories of your lives that you've
yeah,
led, you know.
yeah.
And I love that the way you don't. And I think the next poem I hope you'll read is the one that's very far away, actually, and it's you in at Mason Lake. And in this
Oh,
one, what I loved is when I was reading your river poems and being aware that you're a wild water swimmer, it's the depths that you go to. Whereas what struck me with this was the stars in the sky coming down. So it was like up and then back down when you
mhm.
slip into the river. And this wee girl from, you know, a small place has done it, you know. So I wondered if you would read that poem. I loved it.
I will.
One of
Okay.
my favourites in the book. I love it. I've got
Ah.
many, but I really love that one.
This poem's got a lot of history for me, so I'll be glad to read it. Midnight, Mason Lake, Washington. Oh, and that's Washington in the United States, not the one near Newcastle. The sky can't carry all its stars tonight. It pours 1,000 down onto the lake. The water receives these sapphires of light and bends them on its surface, where they make new constellations, wavy Big Dippers, a rippling Orion and Dog Star's twin. A new universe to the girl who stirs with only darkness covering her skin and slides into the yielding water, free for one night of her small town choked down dreams. She swims through galaxies and thinks that she can do anything now she's touched moonbeams. She drifts between two worlds and doesn't know which one to choose and which one to let go.
Absolutely incredible poem. I mean, she swims depth and galaxies. I just love that, the whole the circle of it. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask as well, there's a kind of confessorial thing in some of your work, through this nature and the escaping and
Mhm.
trying to be somewhere else and, some of it good, some of it bad and moving on. But for me, there was a little bit of a kind of slightly contradiction, which I'm hoping you'll fix for me, between this new escape to Michigan and this huge big stars and this place that you found yourself and the joy that you express in a poem we'll hear later about your relationship to nature itself. But you say here in this place that you're free from the small town and choked up dreams.
Mhm.
That sounds a bit as if this place, the contradiction for me is this big city is giving you something in a way that the small, shall we say, the small urban space can't. Um,
Mhm.
I'm thinking Scotland is nature, it's so much of nature, yet you seem to be
Yeah.
seeing it as too small, or maybe it was just your town that was too small.
Yeah. It's about, well, it's about whatever whoever's reading it on the day thinks it's about, of course. But if I tell you I wrote this when I was 18, and I
I'm
think you have
very
a lot of,
impressed.
no, sorry, I didn't write it when I was 18. That's completely wrong. It's about when I was the experience was when I was 18. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you get these experiences, especially when you're young, and especially if you're lucky enough to be able to travel. And I'd gone to America to be a bridesmaid for a close friend. And you go somewhere and it's such a transformative experience, just the broadening of your mind, really, that you
Yeah.
think, I can't go back to what I was, or the place that I was. I did go back,
That
but
fits
it just
perfectly
expands
now that
your
you tell
your
me
outlook.
it's an 18-year-old experience,
Yeah, yeah.
because I think any 18-year-old that I've ever met who lives in a rural environment is desperate to get out of it. But usually they return and they realize, their life has got
Yeah.
so much to offer them there, but they always feel that the big wide world is full. So it does make an awful lot more sense as well to me. And it doesn't have that contradiction when you see an 18-year-old. I absolutely love when you see it as well. The River Tay is all light, and this one is it's at night with the stars, and
Hmm.
the darkness is the
Hmm.
only thing covering her skin. And she slides into the yielding water. It's quite sensual as well. That
Well,
whole thing has got a sensuality about it, which again is 18,
yes.
an 18-year-old memory.
Well, you
It's
can imagine a
absolutely.
wee Catholic girl from Dundee skinny dipping in the moonlight in America. It was quite mind blowing.
All right. Well, I might do that one day, but so far not.
It was great.
Anyway,
Ah,
I wondered if you would like to read us another few poems, Evan, just
I
to.
will. I will. Which will we go next? Well, I'll go on to the next, the one that you mentioned there about being immersed while we're on the subject of nature. Um, th this is really the first one I wrote when I decided to explore this theme of returnings. Um, Although it's about human life, I often, as many poets do, turn to the natural world for my metaphors and to help me work things through in my head. So I thought, what do you get in nature that returns? You've got the usual tides and seasons and so on, but I wanted something a wee bit different. So I ended up with the water cycle. So, with apologies to any actual scientists out there, this one is hop on the water cycle. Dare the new sun to breathe you in, exhale you on the honeysuckle wind. Then it's up, over hills, molecules stravaiging, always up, till you cool and your atoms reconvene as cloud, high on the rush of refracting northern light. By the time you're brushing Ben Moor's crest, you're solid, weighty drops of joy coalesced. Free fall. Then, A few bright eons of slow, slow seep through the glister of gneiss and old sandstone, till you surface in a river and the sun comes again to disperse you on the honeysuckle wind.
Oh,
That one was fun.
I mean, these poems are incredible, and that's just such it takes you on a journey with you, as you hear it and read it. You can, it's more when you hear it, I think, but reading it, you can go on that journey. And again, very, very much you immersed and part of nature and all of it. That's what I found quite interesting. The sun breathes you in and out. Molecules, eons, you become the clouds, you become the northern light, you go seeping through the rocks till the river sends you off and dispels you into the wind. So there's all of these things you become part of, in a way that's just beautifully written, Karen, really. And it's clear to me, despite the 18-year-old in the big city, that nature is very, very important to you as a person, is it?
Oh, very much is. Yeah, yeah. I get very grumpy if I have to be in a city for too long. Much as I love Dundee and many other cities, it's the quiet, I think, and just the slower pace of things out and about. Yeah,
Also,
bit of
it's just when you get out into it, you just can leave everything behind. I think that, and these kind of, fortunately, the panoramic views we have, if you take to a hill, or, just
yeah,
the beauty of it all. I was listening to a radio program this morning where they were discussing the fact that the ferries have been such a drag and people can't get to the islands. And there was this chap came on, and all he could say was, "But please don't ever let it put you off, because I visit Scotland and I've never seen anywhere in the world like this, how it just makes me feel alive."
yeah,
And yeah, I'm like that,
yeah,
if I know
yeah.
that
You're
feeling.
so
So
lucky.
this
So,
poem where you become one with so much of it is,
uh,
again, it's another one of my favorites. So
it was a lot of
um
fun.
thank you for that.
So,
So what are you going to read for us now?
oh, well, I've got, I think we'll have, would you like one with a wee bit of Scots in it? This is,
If you
oh,
want,
wait,
if you would like.
I'll go, yeah, I'll read Going Back. Me off there. I feel we should have a wee bit of Scots. There's both in the book. Okay. Going back. Put the car in reverse. Trundle backwards down the A9. Leave behind your mess of a life, along with birches, bog myrtle, and sea eagles. Carry on through craggy moors until conifer plantations bristle and common buzzards have the sky to themselves. Meet the Tay at the point where you used to go fishing with Dad. Past the forestry where you saw the capercaillie. Wind to the left, mind you're in reverse, at Perth, and meet the first dual carriageway you ever drove on. Realise it's no safe going backarties here. Park at Willowgate and swap to a boat. Put your feet up as you sweep the last 20 miles to Dundee Harbour. There's no point in fighting the current. Then you'll need a bus across the Toon, past the big baths and the Johnny's playground. Get off at Liff Road and dawn around the corner, past the clubby, past the Auld Quarry, in at the squeaky gate on number 10. Find the key under the flet stane, stand on your tippies to reach the lock and let yourself in. Mind and tack your sannies off. Gae ben the kitchen and mak yourself a piece.
That's a great idea. I think having the poem go on the journey in language, I think that's quite clever. And as it approaches Dundee, it becomes Dundonian, and
Yeah.
quite the street Dundonian as well, which I really loved.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was so. Where did you get that idea? Have you seen that done, or did that just came at Karen Macfarlane one?
I've never seen it done. I'm sure somebody else might have done, but I've never seen it. It's just yeah,
Patent
that
that, Karen.
once one of
That's a
one of
patent.
painted. I mean, it's one of the joys of going back to where you come from. You because when you're not among people that speak your original accent, dialect, language, whatever it is, it's quite hard to tune into it. But when you're there, Oh, it's a joy. It's a joy. And I find that as an occupational therapist, I work with a lot of older people in Dundee, and I can just tune straight in with them. It's great, and I think they appreciate it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think my mum and all my aunts, they were mill workers in Paisley, and west of the river is definitely a different sound. Like I've lived in Glasgow a long time, and people say, "You're no for Glasgow hen." And I say, "You're west of the river." They know, and
Yeah,
it's just slight differences. But
I
when you
don't
go
do that.
west of the river down to Ayrshire, Ayrshire Scots was definitely with my mum. And my daughter, she's taking notes of the words that my mum used to. And I found that quite good because I'm now writing a little bit of it. So I asked for her wee notebook, yeah. And as you say, when you go back to these places and meet with people, it's quite easy just to slip in and understand it and take part. But I love that, and I love the idea of and also just considering a dual carriageway, it's this, there's a split, there's that schism, and the dual carriageway is kind of extended metaphor for it. I love that. Okay, thank you very much, Cam. What else are you going to read for us?
Um, I'll read Hillfort next. There's a lot of hill forts around here, including the one that's mentioned in Macbeth on Dunsinane Hill. Hill Fort. On the highest hill in my history, I build a rampart, ribbed round with earthworks, deep ditches, and deadly spikes. Defend it with fierce, forge-honed blades. Someone, sifting soil one day, will find these fine, fragile things, ease the earth from their edges, blunted by so many summers of self-defense, study their strange, misshapen forms, and wonder what they were ever for.
Yeah, there's quite a sense of legacy all the time in your work, emotional legacy, and then these items, that might be found. And then I think that hill fort, again, I know it's talking about a previous time in history, but again, it begins, at the highest point in my history. What is it you say actually, the hill fort?
The highest hill in my
On the
history.
highest hill,
Yeah.
at the highest hill of my history. And that house that you lost
Mm-hmm.
that's mentioned, you're not going to be the thing that loses its shell. You're going to guard this one, and I think it's the language you use, it sounds, yeah, it does sound a bit overall because of some of the things that just the language that's used in there, but you can see you like the queen in her
Ah,
hill fort. No one's taking it off you, Karen.
all
That's your
the
place. No, it's a
yeah.
lovely, lovely poem. Beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah, it's kind
yeah,
of that idea of that, is this the hill you're going to die on? For something that you feel so strongly about. But sometimes after a long time or a bit of distance, you wonder why you were so hung up on that particular idea that you were so attached to, and maybe you can let it go. It doesn't seem so important anymore.
which one was it? Where was it?
Which what? Which?
What hill was it? Is it which one is it? Because there's
Um,
a few up there.
it's a combination of there's as I say, Dunsinane is just along the road, but also
Yep.
Dundee Law, which comes into a couple of the other poems that had a hill fort on it as well. Yeah, and the form for any form geeks out there, there's a few different forms in this collection. I love writing in form, so we've got pantoums and sonnets and so on. But this one was having a bit of fun with an Anglo-Saxon form that I came across in Stephen Fry's book, called The Ode Less Travelled. So it's a combination of accents, four accents to the line, and three alliterations to the line as well. So that's where some of the words. That's why
Like
it's the
that book of
highest
Stephen
hill, not the
Fry's is
highest
quite
point.
it's quite offhand in places,
Yeah,
humorous in places, but it's quite a good wee set text for people. I mean,
it is
between
good.
him and Mary Oliver's second book, the dance, I don't know the rules of the dance.
Oh yeah.
It's a fabulous book as well, which
Mm.
shows you that so many of the old formal poetry came from
Mm-hmm.
dances, in
Mm-hmm.
Italy, dances in France,
Yeah.
and it's quite interesting when you see a first book like Stephen Fry, and then you go through. He doesn't go into it the same way. I
Mm.
think he's trying to introduce it to people that might not necessarily be so engaged the way she is. But
Yeah.
I think we spoke about that before, and I think having taught creative writing a long, long time, people anxiously will say, "Oh, I don't want to do all this. I just like to do free verse when I write what I like." And I just think,
That's
you're
terrifying.
not going to let it's not. It's really frightening, because you've got no footholds, you've got no limits, you've got no boundaries that help you
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
just think about what you're saying, never mind how you're saying it. Let them tell you how you have to say it. Let the
absolutely.
forum dictate. Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it put me off writing poetry for many, many years because I just didn't know what to do with free verse. It wasn't until I was asked at a workshop to try writing a sonnet that suddenly gave me this kind of something to get
the maths.
latch onto, get my teeth into, and there's where I put the line break. So I
That's
quite
right.
often use that just as a tool now. You write something in a form. Sometimes it
Yeah.
stays in the form, sometimes it then gets deconstructed into something a bit freer.
And it's quite nice also combining the forms, so
Mm,
say to somebody, let's start off with a track and sonnet, and somewhere in the middle of it have a tanker or something, and just go back to it.
mm,
It's quite interesting watching that. And once they're kind of au fait with the forms, it's nice to play around with it.
yeah.
But I just think for someone to say free verse, you have to find your breath. You
Hmm.
have to know where your breaks are. I mean, that's quite difficult. You would need to be taking yourself, and I think it takes a much longer time to make a good job of that. So I really enjoyed seeing all the different formal properties of your work as well, which was great. Can I get you to finish with the goddess?
Yes, I've got it ready.
Love the goddess.
Uh, so the collection's called Native River, and my native river is the Tay. And you get a glimpse of the Tay in a lot of these poems, but none of them are really about the Tay itself. It's just a motif that helps me put ideas over. Um, and this one's about a bigger subject than the Tay itself as well, really. But I wanted to give the river her own voice. Um, so this one's written in the river's voice. When I was a goddess, I gave power freely, blessing trade and travel, one strand in a weave of immortal waterways, linking a highland loch with Phoenicia and beyond. By Danube and Thames, Tamar and Forth, indigo, salt, and wool were shuttled, and peat pool polished horn. Together we knotted a silver net that neither earth nor air could match. Lives followed us, followed me, as a carver follows the grain of his wood. Now they ignore flowing Tay, cargo their pointless stuff on roads, steal power from earth and air, forgetting their goddess is still here, watching, redundant, worshipped now only for my beauty.
Oh. I mean,
Mhm.
you're touching all their stuff, consumerism, just that endlessness and the greed and the need for speed and all of that. So that echo poem is very, very clever, but you do get a very strong sense of a wise goddess watching all of this.
Yeah,
It's wonderful just
I
making
know.
her the narrator there, and that her aesthetic is the only thing that gives any use. She's clearly not enjoying that in the face of what she sees happening. Absolutely wonderful poem. So I wonder if you could tell us, it's easier maybe for you to say where we can come and hear your next reading, Karen.
Great. Yes, we have a wee event coming up in Dundee. It's on Wednesday, the 13th of May at 7 p.m. in Forks Cafe, which was formerly the Dundee Cycle Hub. It's just on the park where the V&A and the urban beach are. It's a great wee place with a view of the River Tay. And we're going to be joined by Carol Mackay, who's also got a collection out with Seahorse. And you're coming, Linda, aren't you? And we're going to have some wonderful local poets coming from around Dundee and Perth, Tayside area as well. So it'll be lovely.
So that if you're in the area, folks, I would strongly recommend you get along and hear Karen. Watch her performer poems because that's quite something as well. There's a sensibility that's warm and also very, very engaging. So I hope you've seen some of that in her readings here on the Seahorse publication YouTube. And I would like to say thank you very much to Karen Macfarlane for writing these poems. And I hope it's helped you as much as it's going to help anybody that reads it. Because it's a fabulous way just to feel better about the world, I think. That someone's taking note. I think it's a very inspirational book. And I would like to thank all of you out there just for sitting in. And I hope you'll listen to this many times. I hope you buy the book. The book's available now from www.seahorsepublications.com. And they're going fast, so get yourself one, buy a friend one, and sit by the River Tay if you're so lucky and read them. Thank you very much from Karen and from myself, Linda Jackson. See you soon.
Thank you.